Reba McEntire is primed to headline a sitcom for the first time in more than a decade with a new NBC pilot, a project that reunites her with producers, writers, and at least one star of her 2000s WB series Reba. The pilot, which McEntire says is titled Happy's Place, stars the singer as a tavern proprietor named Bobby. "My dad was the owner, and I've been running it for the last 10 years, and my dad dies," she explains to Entertainment Tonight. "So I find out some information at the reading of his will that I'm not too happy with. So that information is that she has a half-sister, played by Belissa Escobedo, Blue Beetle, who's joining the tavern team as her new business partner. Reba Costar Melissa Peterman, meanwhile, will play Gabby, a clingy bartender who wishes she could be Bobby's sister, according to Deadline. Other cast members, as Deadline reported last month, include Tocala Black Elk, Yellowstone, as handy waiter Dakota, Pablo Castelblanco, Alaska Daily, as obsessive-compulsive accountant Steve, and Rex Lynn as short-order cook Emmett. "He is kind of the patriarch now that my daddy has died, because he's been with the tavern the longest," McEntire says of Lynn's character. Lynn's casting, by the way, is a wink to McEntire's personal life. She's been dating the CSI Miami alum since 2020. Plus, the pilot comes from executive producers Kevin Abbott, Michael Hannell, and Mindy Schultheis, who also worked with McEntire on Reba. It's the same showrunner, same writers, and same producers as Reba. So it's gonna be that heartfelt, fun, funny, laugh at our silliness, but also be touched by the heart in the show, the country star explains. "That's what I really loved about Reba." With those cast members and creatives in place, McEntire says it's been lots of fun working on the new project. "I love all genres of entertainment, but the sitcoms are just so much fun because it's a brand new script every week, and you're just having fun. Yeah, it's really hard memorizing all the dialogue you have to do, but it ain't my first rodeo, girlfriend. Absolutely. I do love it, and it's just playtime. We have a blast with this." Post Malone turns Stagecoach into 90s/Zeros Night, and Miranda Lambert gets fancy-full with Reba on Fest's guest star-studded night 2. Willie Nelson's classics-filled set and Charlie Crockett's vintage-worthy originals also drew a compelling connection between countries past and present. Willie Nelson's classics-filled set and Charlie Crockett's vintage-worthy originals also drew a compelling connection between countries past and present. Bianca did not show up. Reba did. And it was enough. At least it was for the 70,000 in Indio watching the Stagecoach Festival live, if not necessarily all of the probably hundreds of thousands more tuned in at home strictly in hopes of a B sighting. As single ladies doubling up, Miranda Lambert and Reba McEntire may not quite have broken the internet the way a Cowboy Carter cameo would have, but in the flesh, it felt like their climactic 3-song duet segment sure broke Stagecoach. Miranda Lambert and Reba McEntire perform at the T-Mobile main stage during the 2024 Stagecoach Festival at Empire Polo Club on April 27, 2024 in Indio, California. Getty Images for Stagecoach. And for his part, Post Malone did not need the help of any of the superstar artists whose albums he's had featured appearances on to be a hit at Stagecoach. His penultimate set on the main stage Saturday was, as billed, a performance of all country covers, with a billboard on the way out to the festival site offering an 800 number where he was supposedly taking requests. He didn't necessarily make any breaking news with his time on stage, unless good taste in Alan Jackson covers is news. But his emphasis on the 1990s/2000s hits of his childhood and youth, plus Tyler Childers, for good modern measure, would have captivated the crowd even without Dwight Yoakam, Brad Paisley, and Sarah Evans showing up to seal the deal. "How's he doing?" Paisley asked the crowd of 75,000 during his extended time on stage. "I think he's made for this." Posty's opening song, Childers 2013, Purgatory, nearly counted as an oldie, albeit one that may not have been familiar to everyone in the crowd. With its chorus references to cocaine, some fans who don't know Childers' catalog may have wondered if this was an obscure number from the 70s outlaw country movement. But from there on, there would have been nothing for anyone with the slightest grounding in turn-of-the-century mainstream country to not recognize. Before he was finished, Malone touched on some of country's corniest sentimental songs: George Strait's Check Yes or No, Tim McGraw, Don't Take the Girl, some of its corniest but funniest, Paisley's I'm Gonna Miss Her, Toby Keith's Who's Your Daddy, one of its most rocking, Vince Gill's One More Last Chance, and one of its most reverent and sobering, Randy Travis. He could have been mistaken for a true country traditionalist if not for his habit of inserting the F word into literally every sentence, or close to it, between numbers. Evans may have been the only person in his set who did not get an F-bomb as their new middle name, or at least a prefix. But first up among his guests was Yoakum, who'd had the top spot in the Palomino tent the night before, walking out partway into Little Ways. Earlier in the set, Malone had done a little bit of wiggling, so it seemed clear he was familiar with Yoakum's oeuvre. Evans got the classic Suds in the Bucket all to herself as a lead vocalist, as Malone apparently decided he was not the one to tell a young woman's story. Suds, for any younger fans who may not be familiar with it, is basically the precursor to Taylor Swift's But Daddy I Love Him. But the most stage time was given over to MVP Paisley, who sidled up alongside Malone for a duet of the Fish Over Hose anthem, I'm Gonna Miss Her, stayed on stage to be a Gill proxy as guitar soloist on One More Last Chance, and then returned at set's end for more fireworks on Chattahoochee, as Jelly Roll came out and sang along. Paisley may have gotten more soloing time than he bargained for. The set went several minutes past its scheduled ending time as Malone worked the ramp to sign autographs and pose for pictures, while the band, Paisley included, vamped through a very extended outro. By all rights, Lambert should have had a hard time following that. She did not. Even without the added power of a big McEntire attack, Lambert reminded the audience, song by song, that she has as strong a catalog as anyone in country music, and that on top of that, she has an hour and a half's worth of rich, recognizable, high-concept bangers, with only Bluebird, Tin Man, and obviously The House That Built Me built into the set as mellow moments. Her band played with a consistent rock and roll fury, albeit with steel guitar licks now laden liberally over almost everything. To everything's benefit. Whoever the entertainer of the year may be at any given recent point, Lambert has a strong claim on being country's entertainer of the 2 decades. Drunk and I Don't Want to Go Home was performed as a duet, albeit with Lambert's backup singer, not Elle King, who had apparently moved on after playing the main stage Friday night. King, who rearranged some of her material to better befit the rock band she's out with, had done a less immediately recognizable version of their joint hit the night before, albeit still a good one. Even though it represented a moment of shared and not individual glory in her career, Lambert's Drunk felt like a natural set climax, especially when someone hit the pyro button for final suggestive fireworks. That wasn't the case, as Lambert called out the need for a sexy redhead from Oklahoma to join her, and assuming there had not been a reconciliation and a hair-coloring session with her ex, this meant McEntire, who braved the insane desert winds to join Lambert for a dynamite denouement. The hardest rocking version ever of Reba's Fancy was sandwiched between duet versions of Mama's Broken Heart and Gunpowder and Lead, before the fireworks lever got pushed a second and final time. How potent it would be to get a co-headlining tour between these two, capped by an extended, explosive moment like the one this show ended with? Surely this space won't be the first or last time where that idea gets floated. Willie Nelson kept the features in his set to immediate family, as might have been guessed from the Willie Nelson and Family banner. It, too, was the source of some speculation about a Beyonce guest appearance due to his recent appearance on Cowboy Carter. And because, Beyonce casually sits in on other people's acoustic-oriented sets so often. Actually, sources insisted she was at Stagecoach undercover to observe, just as she allegedly had snuck into Coachella earlier this month, but we'll believe it when we still don't see it. Whoever was tuning into Nelson's set on the festival's Prime Video/Twitch livestream just for the possibility of hearing Beyonce sing Mamas, Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboy Carters, got quite an inculcation into the most classic country of the last half-century. Hustling through 18 songs in just 45 minutes, if the closing instrumental of I Saw the Light during his final bows counts. Nelson established that, yes, there are still living country superstars with even greater catalogs than Lambert's, but for all the perennials like Whiskey River on View Again, not to mention the still underrated Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground, one of the greatest breakup songs ever written. The set's highlight may have been the sound of Willie and Lucas sharing sublime family harmonies on Pearl Jam's Just Breathe. Nelson has a hard time settling on reverence or irreverence, which is exactly as it should be, and as you'd hope, so the expected gospel final of Will the Circle Be Unbroken and I'll Fly Away was sandwiched right between two songs that take the piss out of everything, Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die, and It's Hard to Be Humble. Nelson also brought out a few less mandatory songs from his early catalog, like I Never Cared for You, the least reciprocated song title in Stagecoach history. With Post Malone and Nelson both dressing down for the occasion, Lambert had the clear lead in the day's best-dressed competition, decked out in gorgeous, turquoise-accented Western wear, with a hat that surely had to have been crazy glued onto her head, given the wind gusts she understandably kept remarking on. She had some competition there, of course, with the always stylist Charlie Crockett, one of the highlights Saturday in the Palomino tent, where he made the most of original songs from his just-released $10 Cowboy album that recall country's golden era, as surely as Nelson's tunes from that actual period did. Other highlights in Stagecoach's Hump Day included an early afternoon set from Tanner Adele, one of the featured artists on Cowboy Carter, establishing her own breakout potential, Maddie and Tan getting their own set after getting the spotlight from Jelly Roll during his on Friday night. Asleep at the Wheel, bringing Ray Benson's 50-plus venerable years of swing to the tent, and Leon Bridges, a welcome outlier from outside the genre, but a natural fit as the day's Palomino headliner. The Palomino was never more packed to overflowing than when Yellowstone's Luke Grimes turned in a mid-afternoon set of material from his recent release, momentarily emptying Paramount Plus's Yellowstone installation nearby, or for EDM carpetbagger, Diplo's after-hours set that allowed lingering festival-goers to rave it up after Lambert's rocking. Could Bianchi still show up on Sunday? Anything's possible, except for that happening during Morgan Wallen's headlining set, because we're pretty sure that is not possible. But Sunday does promise performances from 3 more artists who appeared on the Cowboy Carter album: Shabuzi, Willie Jones, and Brittany Spencer. Other draws for Sunday include The War and Treaty, Megan Moroney, Clint Black, Bailey Zimmerman, Pam Tillis, Ashley Cook, The Beach Boys, and an after-hours closing set from Wiz Khalifa. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel Jaxcey N24. Thank you for watching.